Okay, so first quarterly report then for the second year of the game, March 1851, and a good start to the year so far. No special dramas, nothing sort of particular has happened. Khurshid Pasha has kind of been chasing around these insurgents without really kind of engaging them in any kind of significant battle. So we're just kind of sitting in provinces to try and consolidate our control over the region. And in the areas that we have kind of captured and that we're kind of screening with his force, we're now sending merchants and we're building trade posts. And the idea is, in fact, I think we're going to be in a position to build a trade post in Sana. So we're going to go ahead and do that now, I think. We've got colonial merchants there. So trade post in Sana and her data is going to provide us with a constant kind of trickle of opium and coffee in a region which we now hope is sort of well protected. Certainly if there's any move from towards Sana from the east, then we'd probably be able to see them in Hadramut. So yeah, so far so good. As I say, we haven't kind of delivered any sort of death blow to the Yemeni insurgents just yet, but our marine force of 2 brigades, which combined is about a division's strength, is 13,000 men, 352 horses and 16 cannons, is now actually ready. Fabrication and training of these units is complete, so we are going to begin to prepare their deployment there. So we're going to use riverine movement, which is to say sort of use small transports on the coast, and we're going to move this force to Palestine. It's going to take 37 days. That's likely, if we can hover over the tiles, that's likely going to take so long because of rather heavy weather. I'm half tempted to hold them back, but actually I won't. I think we'll be okay. Usually it probably only take about sort of 11-12 days, something like that, so they are leaving in quite difficult weather. Once they're in Palestine, we're going to head south towards Akbar. We're going to force march them to the Red Sea coast, and then we're going to use the same riverine points. We're going to move them to Hodeida. My thinking is that even with the difficult weather, this is going to be fairly transient weather. Obviously it'll move on in the coming days. This would accelerate their redeployment, their maritime redeployment. So it says 37 days. This is the estimate at the moment. This is likely to change. My thinking is they'll probably be in Palestine within 20 to 25 days. That's it. In terms of on the colonial front, the only other thing to report is in Libya now, we are beginning to drive up average colonial penetration. So we're at 57%. And we're hoping that's going to climb, and that's a combination of things like improving road networks in Tripoli and Cyrenaica or Tobruk. We're also looking to build military trade posts now, so there's a kind of so this entire area is defended. There's a kind of good link between Tripoli and Benghazi, and it's unlikely that any of these regions are going to fall very suddenly from any incursions from the south. The Italians or the Sardinians are looking to extend their influence in Tripoli, but we think that we're in a fairly strong position here, so we should be okay. And in Cyrenaica, yeah, as I mentioned, we've got improved road network. That's all in terms of sort of colonial and military affairs. Nothing else significant to report. On the diplomatic front, I should point out in the first quarter, beginning in January, our first European war has kind of kicked off. So our first European war is between Prussia, who we have quite good relations with. We've been trading with Prussia. They had declared war on, I think it was Holland. Yeah, so they're at war with Holland. And I'm not sure what they're looking to gain out of that. It looks like they've occupied most of the country already. It's likely they're going to perhaps gain some kind of trade concessions or force the Dutch to dole out some money or something like this. They might even possibly be looking to kind of get a transfer of some of their colonial sort of holdings in Southeast Asia. We'll see what happens there. On the diplomatic front for us, we've taken our first kind of concrete step on the world stage, and we have extended promise of local support. Now, the great thing with this kind of promise is it's unlikely to entangle us in any kind of serious problems. It's unlikely anyone's going to go to war with the UK at this time. But what it does do is it says to Britain, even though we're not in a formal defensive alliance, they haven't promised anything for us. It suggests that we're an ally, that we're prepared to, in the event that another power declares war on Britain, we will be compelled to go to war. If we don't, we'll be looking at a fairly significant loss of prestige. So it is something that we'll be expected to act upon. But to have the UK as an ally in almost any war is fairly balanced positive at this time anyway. The only other thing we have done is we have sent diplomats to Montenegro with the aim of developing a commercial agreement. So our plan now is to try and cultivate commercial agreements with Wallachia, Serbia, Montenegro, as mentioned, I think earlier this year, with a view to try and economically dominate this region. Now, our RGOs are beginning to kind of bear fruit. We've had the completion of a couple of tobacco plantations. This is putting tobacco production now at 2 units per fortnight. This is looking to fairly significantly increase by another 6 units, probably in the next couple of months. And consumption now sits at 2, so we're selling 2 per turn. This is really, really good. We're starting to see a real difference now in terms of domestic market sales. Domestic market sales were sitting at around 180 to 200, with about 49 to 51 units of goods at the beginning of last year. That's now increased to ranging between 230. I think the most I had is 248. So our economy is growing. We're looking at economic growth of maybe something up to a quarter if we combine that, for example, with our asset stock now sitting at 3057. That's really, really good. Our economy, I'd say, has grown by anything from a quarter to a third, and it's going to grow dramatically this year. We're going to be looking at quite a serious increase of domestic consumption of goods and also exports. Exports sit fairly solid. Now, we are taking the step of exporting coal. The reason being is once we have such a large stockpile of a certain kind of commodity, it's gradually lost anyway. It's lost it. We can't see this now because we're actually exporting some. But what begins to happen is once you have so much of a particular kind of commodity stockpiled, it just becomes lost through either wastage in the form of coal, less so wastage but theft. It just begins vanishing into the ether. So there's only the kind of the size of the stockpile that your economy can hold is subject to the overall size of the economy. So even though we obviously want to stockpile coal, if we're going to lose this stuff through wastage anyway, because there's too much of it, we may as well export it and make some actual capital on the basis of that. So we're doing that. That's yielding some nice results. We're trying to keep a constant source of supply now, of military supply from the UK, but also manufactured goods and steel. We want to begin stockpiling steel and manufactured goods for our first industrial enterprises. My hope is that probably by the end of this year, we will have begun construction of our first industrial enterprise, our first actual factory. My thinking is it's going to be a textile shop and it's going to be in Constantinople. We're going to do 47 manufactured goods stockpiled for that and 31 steel. Steel's looking good, manufactured goods is climbing, and we're going to need 857 capital. At 100% efficiency, that's going to produce 4 textiles. Currently in Constantinople, without railroads, we're looking at about 50% efficiency. So that's going to add two units of textiles per fortnight for our economy, and that's something that's certainly good. And as mentioned in a previous video, we're really well placed to support a burgeoning textile economy because we have good access to wool or cotton and dyes, and so that's something that's desirable for us to sort of develop. That's it in terms of our economic activity. As I've mentioned already, we've sent diplomats abroad to both the UK. We also tried to cultivate a commerce agreement with France to no good end. The French sort of just refused. They're not terribly interested in this. So I think that's it for now. It's a fairly brief business report. Nothing too significant has happened. I'm sort of scrolling around the map just to see if anything can serve as a kind of mental cue for something that I may have missed, but no, absolutely nothing. Next update report will be in June this year, so 3 months from now. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you in the next one.